Hey, it is officially springtime in South Carolina. I am in Zone 8B and we're gonna get ready to plant our garden. All right, this year we are gonna do transplants of tomatoes and cucumbers, and then I am going to just directly sow some garden beans and cucumbers, and I know zinnias and marigolds. Zinnias will wait a little bit till it gets a little warmer, and we'll just go from there and see what else. But I do mostly have it planned out in my bed, so very excited, but let's go ahead and go outside. Welcome to my garden. Now remember, you don't have to have a big fancy garden to grow your own food. The point is just to be outside and have a little bit of fun. But first of all, we have got to clean this mess up. So let's get started. As you can see, I have neglected this a little bit. We have some leftover snapdragons. They were able to make it through the freeze this winter, but everything else is just a mess, and we have really let the weeds grow up. So we're just gonna tackle that and get our soil amended. I typically like to just go ahead and hand pull the weeds. That way I can actually get them from the root. And then for the snapdragons, I will go ahead and just pinch them back. So what this does is it helps them be a lot bushier and give them more nutrients to the good part of the plant. So I'll either cut them back, or if you want to do this, you can just snap them off. That way they grow out towards the sides. These snapdragons were actually ones that I had just bought from Lowe's, and I bought them in a 6-pack, and they really took over and had some really pretty blooms. I love to use these for cut flower bouquets. I think they turn out so pretty. But what can I say? These snappies make me happy. Now there's even going to be more room for the rest of my chaos gardening, where I put some more wildflowers and pollinators into this bed. So to amend the soil, I like to mix in topsoil, some worm castings, and then mushroom compost. So I'll just put them all together and then help rake that into the soil. The other beds, I use that same type of mixture where I just mix in topsoil and then the mushroom compost and the worm castings, and I'll just rake them in on the top layer. I didn't realize that raised beds don't have to be filled the complete way to the top, but it does help because then they get a little bit more sunlight and then they're able to send those roots down in deep. For these beds, I'm going to go ahead and put my kale transplants in, so I'm just getting them ready for kale. All right, so now I'm gonna get my kale transplant. So I got Bonnie Plant's curly kale variety. Then I'm just gonna squeeze this, make sure we get that whole root ball out, and make sure we're being nice and gentle. And we're gonna go ahead and put it in the soil. For my tomato varieties, I always like to find a cherry tomato and then just a regular sized tomato. And I always try and pay attention to their resistances. So the cherry tomatoes have a resistance to reticulum and fusarium. And then the Better Bush, they have that resistance, and then they're also resistant to nematodes, hopefully. So we will see how these do, but I'm super excited to get them in the ground. Seriously, what could be better than a nice, ripe, juicy tomato? And as you can see, my tomato cage probably needs replaced, but we are just working with what we got right now. So I'm gonna get ready to start my zinnias. Zinnias I love, but it seems like every time I put them in a flower bed, or if I put them in any of my raised beds, they just get a mess and they get some powdery mildew on them, and they just don't work out so well. So this year we're gonna try and plant them in pots. I got this fabulous pot. Check this price, only $14 at the Dollar General. And I went on Saturday, which is usually $5 off 25 day, which meant that this was only $9 for this big thing. Remember, not a small person here, but I got this big pot. So instead of filling the entire thing with soil, I'm gonna show y'all how I put it together. Okay, I totally forgot to film this, but I just take my yard scraps like sticks and leaves, and then I will layer that in some topsoil and compost. That way it's like lasagna gardening. We get our carbon and nitrogen right. And then once it warms up a little, I'll sow my zinnias. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you come back to watch a garden update and see me sow some more seeds.